Let's catch up with our main man, Dave Flemming, who, I heard the call, and I know how difficult it may have been to deliver that message. I know he didn't want to do it. You can tell in his voice, man, because he's as authentic as any broadcaster out there broadcasting, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, it doesn't matter, golf. Dave Flemming here on the Morning Roast. And I heard you choke up yesterday, brother, because we lost a great one, Willie Mays, at the age of 93. But we've been celebrating him, playing a lot of his clips and his highlights and hearing from other people, and everybody shared their stories. When did you first meet Willie Mays, Flib? Was it when you first got the job with the Giants? Tell us about the first time you met Willie Mays.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning,
to you. It was when I first got hired by the Giants, because that's what Willie did. He did it for players. He did it for Brian. He did it for everybody. Like, when you joined the franchise, part of your indoctrination was to say hi to Willie Mays and meet him. And he, in the end, he would invite me over to his house. He would sit me down in Murph's office. Like, who was I? I was 26 years old and was brand new. And that's just, he wanted you to feel a part of the family, because as much, this is a national story. Obviously, Willie Mays is the greatest player who ever lived and was an icon in our country, but it's also a really local story. And, Willie, for the Giants, he loved baseball. He had that passion, that enthusiasm that you saw every day, but man, did he love his Giants. And he wanted to spend his whole life around the team and watching and listening and talking about it and meeting players. And that's just who he was. So, I guess I should feel very, very lucky that not only did I get to meet him, but I got to spend a ton of time with him and hang out with him and chat with him. And it was just, I don't want to say it became normal, but he was there every single day. How cool is that? Like, the greatest player who ever put on the uniform, well, all he wanted to do was just hang around the ballpark and be around the team. And what a treat for all of us.
Dave, you've obviously about closer to me and Bonte's age than my dad's. That was my dad's hero, and as I've gotten older, I know you're a historian of the game. You start to appreciate the older generations more and more and more. He felt like he was everyone's hero, though. And I know you've met a lot of heroes of baseball, but just behind the scenes, when other players and other luminaries of the game would meet Willie Mays, was he their hero as well?
Oh, I think so. And in a way that the numbers and sort of the career resume can't possibly capture, because he was just so much more than that. He was what Willie was for everybody was the brilliance of his athleticism and ability to play the sport, but also just the pure joy of watching him play. And I think that's what made him so captivating for so many people. There are a lot of great players, and Willie, you can have a legitimate argument who's the greatest player of all time. I think I know the answer. I think it's Willie. But even if you wanted to say Hank Aaron or Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds or, pick maybe a handful of others that are in that conversation, there's just something different with Willie. And Babe had some of that, just, like the pure captivation you felt when you watched him. And obviously we never watched Babe Ruth, but you listen to people talk about what it was like to see that. And that's what it was like with Willie Mays. And I think that's what separated him from other great athletes. It was the performance and the ability, but it was also just the style and the pure happiness that he brought. Who has ever walked the planet who made more people happy than Willie? Yeah. Like, seriously. Yeah. The Beatles, I guess, maybe. It's a real short list.
Flem, I watched back to Say Hey Kid last night. It was tough to sleep. And I never even saw the guy play. You never saw him play. We never saw him play live, which is crazy, which shows how much of an icon he was. When you talk about a guy who hadn't played since the 70s, and you're still, hey, no doubt about it, greatest player ever or whatnot. And I'm watching the documentary, and you're hearing him, you're listening to him speak, and you're hearing people talk about him and the way he was. And, the first thing in the first 2 minutes of the documentary, one guy goes, it was like watching Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan. It was like watching Ali and Michael Jordan. And that doesn't get bestowed upon just anybody in the 60s, 70s, 80s. That is legendary stuff right there, because we know what those other two guys meant to us there. What is something that we don't know about Willie that you discovered that maybe the public doesn't know, Flem?
Well, I mean, he had a really, really funny sense of humor, and he was self-deprecating, so he could make fun of himself. I told the story on air last night. I'll tell a real brief version of it here. I brought my son in to say hi to him one time. It's probably 5 years ago or something. So my son's a 10-year-old kid or 8-year-old kid, whatever it was. And, he knows all about Willie Mays. In our house, we talk a lot about Willie Mays. And so he was kind of in awe, and I was having a hard time talking to Willie, and Willie was asking him questions. And Willie asked him, "Do you want an autograph?" And so my son David says, "Yes, please, Mr. Mays." And so Willie grabs a ball and takes the Sharpie that's sitting on his card table. I don't know if you guys ever had the privilege of going into Murph's office when Willie was in there, but he had his card table set up, and he would have his lunch, and people would come. It was like a receiving line every day. People would come in to say hi. So he's at his card table, and my son and I are in there, and he grabs his baseball and grabs his Sharpie, and he pulls the sweet spot and signs the ball and looks down at it and goes, "Oh, hell, that's terrible," and turns the ball to the other side and signs it again and hands David the ball. And he was just, he could poke fun at himself for that. He was like, "Well, man, look at that handwriting. That's terrible." That part of him never came across. All the other stuff came across, but that's the stuff that we got to see behind the scenes of just how fun he was. His voice was so distinct, and he could needle you, and you could kind of needle him. He was okay with that. And not that I was poking a lot of fun at the greatest player ever lived, but you could give it back to him a little bit, and he loved it.
As a historian of the game, I know it's hard for the young people to comprehend this because of cell phones, and everything is televised. I'm surprised batting practice isn't televised. For Willie to come up 4 years after Jackie Robinson in New York playing center field while Mickey Mantle is with the Yankees, while Duke Snider is in Brooklyn, and to do it in New York, win a World Series, and then move to the West Coast and legitimize San Francisco as a sports town. Even though the Niners were already here, NFL was not what it is today. Baseball was the number one sport. To do it in DiMaggio's town, as DiMaggio was so beloved locally, and to do it during the advent of the TV era, as people were putting televisions into their living room, for that older demographic, explain to the young people what Willie meant as a cultural national icon.
Yeah, it's probably impossible to really truly help understand. I'm trying to think of somebody now. In a way, like what Taylor Swift over the last year sort of captured the attention of the country and the world. I think that's when Willie was in New York and bursting upon the scenes with all of his brilliance, I think that's what it was like. Like people were they could not describe what they were seeing. It was just a brilliance that they hadn't seen before. And whatever you think about Taylor Swift's music, the conversation in the country was about him and about Mickey and the Duke and DiMaggio and the golden age of baseball. We call it that for a reason. And those guys in that town are the reason we call it that. But Willie stood above them all. And when he came to the Bay Area, think about the gift of Giants fans, all of us. It could have been any team, any group of players who moved west to be the pioneer. And LA got the Dodgers and all their great players. We got Willie Mays when the Giants. Think about that. Yeah. The chances of that. And what that has meant for the place that we all care about so much. Just an incredible bit of great fortune for all of us. And San Francisco has really never been the same since he showed up. And you can have the Bay Area's had an amazing group of athletes over history. You can have the Mount Rushmore talk or whatever, and you could debate, if you're going to pick one Niner, would it be Joe Montana? Would it be Jerry Rice? You could. Steph Curry obviously is in the mix. There's a ton of great choices, but there's one unanimous choice, no matter what sport you're talking about, all sports together, and it's Willie.
Wow. Well said, Flem. I know you got to get ready for a game. We appreciate you popping on here. What a time, man. I can't wait to see how the Giants Tribune and, of course, Rick Woodfield tomorrow. in Birmingham, Alabama. He decided to stay home, and of course, a day later, he passes away peacefully at the age of 93. Flem, take care, man, and stay strong, man. Great stuff yesterday at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, thank you. And look, I mean, there's no good time for this ever to happen. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But think about the timing of we're flying to his hometown tonight. The big league Giants are going there tonight, and we're playing a game there in the ballpark that he played in tomorrow. Like that is an amazing thing that it has happened this way, and the whole tenor of tomorrow is going to change, and it's going to pivot towards Willie, and I think it's going to be a very memorable night.
I know.
No doubt about that. Thanks, Flem.
Thank you, buddy.
Talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. Dave Flemming here on 95.7 The Game. By the way,